Good morning and welcome to WUAB 43 Forum. I'm your host, Harry Boomer. If you can't read, you put yourself on the road to failure. We're not here to pass judgment on anybody, but did you know that right here in this five-time All-American city, 69% of residents 16 and older are functionally illiterate? That means that they have trouble reading a bus schedule, a medicine bottle, or a job application. But there is no need to give up because there is help and there is hope. In Cleveland, it comes in the form of programs and the hard work of the people from the Seeds of Literacy. Two of them join us on this edition of WUAB 43 Forum. Bonnie Entler is the Executive Director, and Joe Stiegerwald is the organization's Development Officer. Ladies, welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I always like to find out who I'm talking to a little bit, so Bonnie, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are?
I'd be happy to. I'm the Executive Director of Seeds of Literacy. I've been doing that for over 9 years. I live out in Lake County, long time Northeast Ohio. Have lived and raised here in Cleveland. I'm very proud to be a Cleveland native. I'm married. I have a wonderful husband, Rich.
All right, very good. Joe?
I, too, grew up in Cleveland. I live on the west side in the Detroit Shoreline neighborhood. And my husband and I have a little girl, Sophie, who goes to Louise May Alcott's Cleveland Public School.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies, for that very much. Some of the things I just talked about here, and there's a lot more that we're going to get into, but it was pretty sobering when I did some research to find out just what's happening, not only in Cleveland, but we're talking, this is a national thing. And if we're going to be able to compete in the world, we're going to need to learn to read. And I was listening to somebody about this issue about a couple of weeks ago, and they said that by the third grade you need to have learned to read, because at that point you need then to read to learn. And that makes a lot of sense to me. But we find there are a lot of people who don't know how to read, even though they are adults and functioning in society. Bonnie, talk to us about that whole concept of not being able to read and how detrimental it can be, and then we'll talk about some of the programs that the Seeds of Literacy has.
I'd be happy to. Literacy really goes a little bit more into just the ability to read. It's also the ability to read, write, and function into the community. Literacy has a link to employment, to being a great citizen, really being great parents, and really helping your children be productive individuals.
I find that people learn how to compensate for not being able to read. I heard a story some years ago about truck drivers who could not read road signs, but they learned how to sort of tell by the symbols along the road what they need to do and what things were said because they had people riding with them initially, and they kind of learned that way. We all hear the stories from old times when grandma and granddad didn't know how to read and they were able to get along anyway. But these days, especially in the 21st century, if you don't know how to read and all the other things, you've got to be really, really behind the eight ball.
Well, I think for a lot of the people that come to Seeds of Literacy, they've come because they've realized they've gotten to a point maybe in their career that they can't progress any further. They're in a dead-end job or they're temporary help, and they think, gosh, I want better for my family. Or their kids are coming home with homework that they're trying to help them with and they don't understand. And so it takes a lot for our students, I think, to be very courageous and saying, gosh, for whatever reason, I didn't finish my schooling, my skills aren't what they need to be, but I want to do better for myself and my family. So they come to places like us.
Okay. And one of the things I want to make sure that we don't do is to say that because you don't know how to read that you're dumb. That's not what we're saying. We're saying you don't know how to read. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how to walk and talk. You can learn how to read too, right? All right. We're going to come back after our first break, and when we come back, the conversation continues with Bonnie Entler and Joe Stiegerwald from the Seeds of Literacy. Just ahead on WUAB 43 Forum, we're going to be talking about this issue, so stay right where you are.
WUAB 43